Welcome into the Warchant.com report. I'm Jeff Cameron alongside Gene Williams and Corey Clark. Not exactly alongside, but you know the drill by now, guys. Florida State coming off a victory, guys. We get to do the Warchant report off of a win. Good times. Let's celebrate. Florida State now going on the road to take on Notre Dame. Before we get to it, the details of all that, let me say this. Pre- and post-game shows on Warchant TV right there on YouTube. Hopefully you've been watching. If you haven't, we'd like to invite you in. Tom Lang and myself do a pre-game show before each game on Warchant TV. You guys can ask questions. We'll try to answer them. We'll try to get to them. And you can certainly watch us perform our duties there. And then after the game, Gene Williams and Tom Lang will join you for the post-game call-in show. You guys feel free again to ask questions as they break down what they just saw pretty much right after the football games end on Warchant TV on YouTube. Of course, for Florida State, it's a 7:30 kickoff on the road in South Bend. Warchant's Ira Schafel will be there to cover the game. Hopefully it's not too bad a bloodbath. If there were a point spread on this game, it's upwards of 3 touchdowns as we sit here today. Not real sure. Each outlet's doing different things when it comes to betting because of the COVID situation with Notre Dame. But as of right now, this game is a go. 7:30 NBC. Florida State wins 41-24 over Jacksonville State. We had a scare there at the beginning, guys, and then it became the Jordan Travis show. And really, Florida State may have found an identity, and certainly they went with the youth movement. I certainly had to be one of the many Florida State fans that watched that game play out. A little concerned early, but happy at the end of the game because they did go young. They did find out a little something about themselves on offense, and perhaps they have found an identity. Gene, has Mike Norvell finally found his quarterback for starters? And then secondly, I guess I would ask you, why didn't Jordan Travis start this football game?
Yeah, we sure hope he found his quarterback. It looked like it. I mean, he went in and they scored 5 straight touchdowns. You can't ask much more for a quarterback. But here's the thing, I think what he does so well, we know the mobility. And when you have a substandard offensive line, I think that makes up for some of that because you can't just balls to the wall rushing after a quarterback when he can burn you running around. But I think what he did so well in this last game was he pressured the defense horizontally and vertically. I mean, so really you can do that, Jeff. You can run the football. And it's not a coincidence. Florida State ran for over 250 yards for the first time, I think, in 2 years that they had that much success. So, yeah, I think that, and like you said, they found an identity having that mobility and somebody who can really spread the defense around. And why he didn't start? He didn't practice hardly at all last week. They did not know until game time that he was healthy enough to actually go in this game. So, I mean, that's why he went with Tate Rodemaker. He was the only quarterback they felt comfortable with it at practice consistently throughout to be able to start the game. It didn't work out well, but thank goodness Travis was healthy. And we talked to him earlier this week, and he says he's still feeling good. He's 100%. So, yeah, I think Florida State's found its guy.
Gene, before I get to Corey and ask about the defense, which is still a little suspect, but I want Corey's thoughts on that, got to ask you, what happens to James Blackman? Certainly this seems to be a sign that he will not go under center yet again at Florida State. A lot of people would speculate now that he's headed to the transfer portal. We can't know that. Your thoughts on what you're hearing about James Blackman's future here at Florida State?
Well, so far, at least what we hear, he's doing the right things in terms of working with the quarterbacks. When we talked to Jordan earlier this week, he went out of his way to see how supportive James had been with him and how they're competitive, but they're still good friends. I think he called him he's my boy, or whatever he called him. So everything seems to be positive from that front, but it's got to be a tough road for James Blackman. Again, I think the guy got dealt a horrible card at Florida State, having to go through 4 offensive coordinators, different offensive system. He was not recruited to play in the system Mike Norvell has. It's not a good system for him. So it's a tough situation. So honestly, I would think he would play out the year, but then it wouldn't surprise me at all if he goes in the transfer portal to go to a place that maybe fits his personality a little bit more so he can have a 5th different offensive coordinator in 5 years.
Corey, that first half was a mess defensively for Florida State. It led to a mini of wringing of the hands and feelings that Florida State was going to give up a ton of points yet again. They may have righted the ship a little bit in the second half, but still you don't want to see anything close to 6 yards per carry or play for an FCS school. Do you think the defense showed signs of improvement there in the second half, or did Jacksonville State get worn down?
Well, I mean, yes and yes, but that's an improvement in and of itself. I mean, wear a team down. That's something we hadn't seen in a while. Still way too much to dislike from their performance to be all excited going to South Bend. But holding him to 3 points in the second half to really one drive when it mattered. My problem, though, is that one drive. You had just tied the game at 21, and then you let them march right down the field to open the second half. Not great. You did hold them to a field goal, And then the next 3 drives, as the offense put the game away, they didn't do anything. They only got good field position once, and then Asante Samuel ended that with a nice interception on a read and cover 2. But overall, man, no, there's not a ton to really look at that game and say, yep, they're turning it around. I think if they took a step, it was a tiny little baby infant step, which is still a step. You're still moving forward, but you want to maybe see like a Bob Beamon leap at some point. I think he still holds the record, doesn't he? Or maybe somebody just broke his long jump record
some time ago, Corey. But I do like the reference. Yes,
trying 68 Mexico City. Come on, guys, I'll crack a book, young kids.
There you go.
So yeah, you want to see a big leap and not these little tiny baby steps. But falling forward is better than falling backwards. And I guess they took a little tiny step forward on Saturday.
I'll add this, and then we'll move forward and talk a little bit about Mike Norvell and discipline. One thing to say about that, Corey, is they're not going to get appreciably better until they get a pass rush from the group up front, and that group up front has been abysmal. They don't get a pass rush. Because Kando was back in this game, they did set the edge a little bit better, and they were better against the run, but they do not get a pass rush unless they try to generate it in other ways with exotics. And that's going to really leave you susceptible to a lot of big plays if you don't get home, especially against the good team. So I don't think you're going to see a ton of improvement from Adam Fuller's defense until they get something pressure up front that allows that back end to have some success and not have to cover people for 5 and 6 and 7 seconds at a time. Mike Norvell chewing a player out on the sideline after the penalty. You get an unsportsmanlike on a touchback, Gene. That's not typical, certainly not something you want to see. Players were apparently suspended, by the way, last week, at least one or more entering the transfer portal. Let's talk about this. Has Coach Norvell, either one of you can weigh in here, has that approach to discipline created some cultural adjustments here amongst players that were comfortable with Coach Taggart's style, perhaps, or were really comfortable with their status within the program in general? Corey, if you want to start, Gene, you can add on.
Well, we hope, right? Like some of them are already gone, so it must have created some sort of difference in how they viewed the Florida State football program, because some of them are treated it, because some of them are gone. What you really need to do, though, is, so Dante Lucas was suspended for this game. Warren Thompson, I don't know if he was suspended, but he didn't play. Cyrus Fagan has already left or is in the portal. So there are guys that have been here a while, even though Lucas is a true sophomore, he's been here a while, that you have to get the stuff off them. And if they can't wash themselves clean of what went on the last couple of years, then they have to move on. And I think that's your goal when you take over a program like this. There is too much stench on this program for the last 3 years, not just Willie's 2 years, but the year prior before he got there, where Norvell's got his work cut out for him, man. He's got a lot of players that are enabled, that are entitled, that aren't nearly as good as they pretend to be or think they are. And they don't really know what it takes. They don't know what it takes to be a winning program and a winning football player. They just don't. He's trying to figure that out and let them know. And there's some hard lessons there. So I do think the guys that survive it, it's not going to be the junction boys. Let's not get it crazy. It's not going to be 20 guys in the sand bleeding and sweating all over each other. But the guys that survive this initial wave, this initial purge, I think will end up being better for it. And I think the team will end up being much better for it. But you got to get some of them have to come off the roster.
So basically, Gene, do we think this is take a step back so you can take a step forward?
Yeah, I think so. What's interesting, I was curious how big has the purge been really? I mean, if you go back and look, since Mike Norvell's been hired, they've had 18 players that should be on the team have left. There's only one that I buy into. Cam Akers left to go to the NFL. Good for him, and he made the right decision there. So you have 17 other guys that have left. Out of those 17, 12 of those were 4-star or higher. You had a couple 5-stars in there, a handful of Rivals 100 guys. So you got a good percentage of your team would be starting right now, but these are guys either a portal, they were dismissed, whatever the case is, and a lot of that's the cultural adjustment we're talking about. So yeah, in the short term, if you had a lot more of these 4-star guys in your starting roster, you probably have a more talented team out there in the field, or at least a more experienced team out there right now. You don't have that now. So yeah, you are taking a step back, but I mean, we saw what happened with Willie Taggart, and in the end of Jimbo Fisher's tenure, discipline went out the window. There was no accountability, and it's tough. It's like when there's a kid, if you give a kid all this leeway and let him get away with something, it's a lot harder to reel him back in to do the right things. And Coach Norvell is experiencing that right now. So sometimes some of these players aren't making the adjustment and they're leaving. So in the short term, yeah, you're going to suffer a little bit, especially early this season. But hopefully as these guys buy in by the end of the season, by November, we're seeing a better product on the field.
Heck, I feel like we saw some of it in the second half of this football game, just watching the guys fight for each other and play hard for one another. They make mistakes. They're young. They're going to do that. But I think the fans can get behind that, and they understand the process. They know where we are. They've watched this football program. They've seen this team. It's hard to take. It's hard to stomach when you're losing football games, especially when they're lopsided. But I think you'd rather go to war with guys you know want to be here and are going to be part of that future when things do get turned around than to go out there with the same old guys that give you a half-hearted effort, cause discipline problems off the field, on the sidelines, yelling at coaches, etc. You can't have it. Let's take a look at Notre Dame. We'll do it in a moment. They're a good football team. We haven't seen them play in a little while, though, because of the COVID scare there. There was thoughts that this game wouldn't be played. It looks like it's a go as of right now. When we come back, we'll do that. We'll look at Notre Dame on the Warchant.com report.
Are you the ultimate FSU fan? We're your ultimate Seminole sports source. Subscribe to Warchant TV, where we bring to life the award-winning website, warchant.com. Here you will find added opinion and analysis from the #1 team on the Florida State beat, a staff that brings over 50 years combined experience right to your phone or mobile device. Unmatched digital storytelling, original recruiting content, access to the top prospects in the nation, unflinching post-game wrap-ups, and the daily podcast Wake Up Warchant. All free of charge every day right here on YouTube. Subscribe to the channel and use the promo code WARCHANT30 for a risk-free 30-day trial of premium access to warchant.com, home to the most active, passionate FSU community online, featuring exclusive insider access you won't find anywhere else. You're the ultimate Florida State fan? Connect to warchant.com, your ultimate Seminole sports source.
Welcome back to the Warchant.com report. Warchant Report, as it's also known. I can do it. 7:30 NBC, Florida State, Notre Dame. Notre Dame, by the way, is 2-0. Kind of a lackluster performance against Duke, 27-13. Then they poured it on poor USF, 52-0. By the way, our game against number 5 ranked Notre Dame begins at 7:30 on NBC. Yet another reminder that you can catch the pregame show, myself, Tom Lang, Warchant TV on YouTube, and the post-game show, Tom Lang doing double duty. Gene Williams will join him after that game with an opportunity to break down what we just saw. Can Florida State keep it close? Well, Ian Book and the boys are probably excited when they look at this Florida State defense, understanding that they can get maybe a lot of what they want. Their offensive line is one of the best in the country. That's problematic for a group that has been beaten up front by lesser teams so far. And if you look at the numbers, they don't bode well. Gene, how does Ian Book compare to some of the other quarterbacks Florida State has faced so far this season?
Like you said, he's really good. I mean, he's just an excellent college quarterback. I don't know if he's going to be one of those elite NFL type guys, but I mean, he does everything well. He is mobile. Maybe not Derek King, like twitchy fast, but he ran for over 500 yards last year. He uses mobility to extend plays. Those pesky third and longs that Florida State loves to give up, where a quarterback scrambles out and gets it. I bet you there's going to be a handful of those on Saturday night. And, here's the thing. Like you said, I think it really helps him that he's got a great offensive line. He's was sacked only 15 times last year. And that may seem a lot, but that was the 5th less of any full-time quarterback last year in the whole country. So he gets good protection. He doesn't make mistakes, only 6 picks all of last season. So a mobile quarterback who makes good decisions, has an outstanding offensive line, and that's what you get, a good all-around quarterback. So Florida State hasn't really faced anybody like that this year, but like I said, the mobility and a competent player, that's going to be a problem for this defense.
Yeah, and it doesn't get any easier when you go from the quarterback and you start looking, Corey. I know they've replaced running backs and receivers and all that stuff, a new offensive coordinator. But when you have an elite offensive line, it doesn't really matter. I guess talk a little bit about what you've seen from Notre Dame, other than the fact that their star running back's name is Sibo Flimmeister, which is one of the coolest names ever.
Sibo. Isn't that the best?
Baby. Sibo.
Man, yeah, they kind of, to me anyway, Notre Dame has gotten to a point. When the running backs, the receivers almost, I know they had Claypool, but the receivers are almost interchangeable. The running backs seem to be interchangeable. It all starts with the guys up front. They're really good. They give Book a lot of time. He does have weapons, but mainly it starts with the guys up front. You give any college football team that's competent, they're going to have skill guys that can get open if you give them 4 or 5 seconds. They're going to have running backs that can turn 4-yard carries into 25-yard carries if you open up a big enough hole. They have all that. They have it in spades. Sibo isn't even their leading rusher. I think he's their best player, but he's not their leading rusher up to this point. but you haven't had to know that because it's been 3 weeks. It'll be 3 weeks since they played. They beat the USF. They beat USF so badly that I don't even know how much he got out of that game. Like I watched highlights of it, and I'm like, well, this is just a complete mismatch. And then the Duke game, if you want to go back, the Duke game might give Florida State fans some hope. Notre Dame wasn't overwhelming in that game. That was a game in the second half. It's just, that offense did sort of start taking control late, and then the defense is going to be the toughest Florida State's faced.
Well, and I don't think Florida State, when you look at the schedule at the beginning of the year and you kind of measured what you thought was possible for Florida State, let's stay with that defense, by the way, for Notre Dame. There were a few teams on this list, even if they had losses to their personnel, even if they, in this case, Notre Dame did. You looked at Notre Dame, you looked at Miami, you looked at Clemson, maybe a couple other teams, and you said, I just don't think Florida State can block them. The problem is certainly Notre Dame fits in that category. They're a top 20 defense by any statistical measure. They're really strong up front. Florida State couldn't block them a couple years ago. I doubt they're going to block them terribly well in this game. I guess, we talk about a daunting task. Corey, I guess to expound a little bit on what you think Florida State will do offensively against the defensive line that I don't think they can block.
Going to roll through them like a hot knife and butter, my man. Sorry, Notre Dame. It's 2003 all over again. Except it's not going to be Crefanzo out there killing you. It's going to be Terry and Pokey. It's going to be tough. I think they've given up 13 points total in two games. They're averaging giving up like 280 yards of offense per game. This will be the best defense Florida State's faced by far. On the same token, though, it's a different Florida State offense. So the one thing you haven't seen that they've really had to deal with is a mobile quarterback. They can also throw it a little bit that we think Travis can. So that's maybe gives you a little comfort that Notre Dame hasn't been able to prepare for something like this. They've also had a 3-week layoff. So maybe the line of scrimmage won't be completely overwhelmed like it would have been otherwise, because you can't just rush upfield crazy like a wild dog when there's a quarterback out there that can break containment, and they have that now. So he should help a little bit, but yes, they've got 18 tackles for loss in 2 weeks. They haven't forced a ton of turnovers yet, but again, it's 2 games. They're forcing a ton of punts, and you hope that Florida State can manage like they did that first drive against Miami, like they did every drive against Jacksonville State. Ball control it down the field. I don't know that you're going to hit a bunch of 70-yard plays. It'd be good to hit 1 or 2 to keep them honest. But be able to just move the ball down the field, move the sticks 7 yards here, 12 yards there, and then that also keeps your defense off the field. But that's easier said than done, right? I mean, this Notre Dame defense is legit.
Yeah, no, really legit. And Gene, I want to ask you about the avenue by which they move the ball. When you look at Jordan Travis, we kind of talk big picture here. They do get to prep, Gene, this week, knowing specifically who their quarterback's going to be and what his strengths are. So you saw wrinkles with the run game, but you didn't see all of the wrinkles in the run game. Now that they know that they are going to prepare primarily with Jordan Travis as their guy and what he can do well with the read option, the spread option, the counter reads, all those things, I imagine they'll introduce some more wrinkles to that aspect of the offense. Do you see them moving the ball that way, which then sets up those open passes down the field? Or do you think they'll throw in the quick game early on to try to open up the run? How do you see it happening?
Yeah, well, it's what I mentioned earlier, that Travis didn't practice all that week, so that with the system we saw really wasn't implemented for him. Rodemaker was the starter, and he's not mobile. So, yeah, they've got a whole week to kind of, okay, he's our guy. Now we can work around his strengths, is one of the things that Mike Norvell does really well. The only real sample size we have is Duke, and they did have some success, especially throwing the ball around a little bit, but they never was his quarterback. Chase Bryce is not very mobile at all for Duke, so they really haven't seen that kind of quarterback yet. But and Duke only converted 4 out of 15 on third downs, but that was a 4-point game in the fourth quarter. So you have to. I'm grasping for straws, but you have to have something here. So I think they can. I think it's going to have to, like you said, be a balance. I think you're going to have to establish the run, get Notre Dame kind of guessing what's going to happen with that, and you hopefully break a big play or two. But yeah, I think you're going to have a balanced attack. You're not going to be able to just run at them or just throw the football. There's no way you're going to be able to have success doing that.
Well, with that, we have to gauge what kind of performance we hope to see and what would be considered a success. What would be considered, I guess, a quality loss if we're all three assuming they're going to lose the football game. I hate conceding that, but I think that's the direction we're leaning. So we need to talk about that. What, in your eyes, is a quality loss, and what do you hope in terms of keeping that momentum and being positive and seeing some growth from Florida State? What will happen in this Notre Dame game that would let you feel that way? That's all coming up next on the Warchant.com report. Welcome back to the Warchant.com report. Another reminder, pregame show this Saturday, Florida State, Notre Dame, myself and Tom Lang on Warchant TV right here on YouTube. You can watch that. And the postgame show, Tom Lang will join Gene Williams as they break down Florida State, Notre Dame, 7:30 NBC. And it's a daunting task, guys. For Florida State, you would like to see some momentum sustained. It's tough to do when you jump from FCS to Notre Dame, who's a 3-touchdown favorite, bare minimum right now. I guess what I would ask you is what needs to happen Saturday night for us to feel like FSU has taken a step forward or a step back after seemingly taking a step forward. Like, what scenario do you see play out here? We can talk about Mike Norvell's impact, Jordan Travis's impact, and all that good stuff. What do you expect to see Saturday? And give me the good and the bad. What would be positive? What would be negative here? We're assuming they're going to lose the football game. We already understand that.
To me, it's going to be a feel thing. I mean, I looked at this, the last 5 games where Florida State has played a team ranked in the top 12. I hate to even bring this up because it's painful, but remember how you felt? Miami 52-10, Florida 40-17, Clemson 45-14, 42-13 against Notre Dame in 2018, and then, of course, the 59-10 Clemson loss that year. And the games really weren't even that close. They were probably worse than the scores indicated. That horrible feeling you had about how bad Florida State was in those games. How about you not have that feeling after the game? Like, okay, it was somewhat competitive in the second half. They hung in there. They got some stops. They made a couple big plays. So something to hold on to outside of that horrible empty feeling, like the gap is Grand Canyon size when these two teams are playing each other.
Corey?
Yeah, I mean, I agree with that. Don't be embarrassed. Just try not to get embarrassed. And that's going to take a lot of effort because every time you play a good team these days, you get straight embarrassed. Miami was an embarrassment. Florida was the last good team you played before Miami. That was an embarrassment. So figure out a way, man. Figure out a way to compete and to give your fans something to feel, like Gene was saying, just give your fans some sort of hope, something to feel good about. They all think you're going to go in there and lose by 50 points. That's what most all Florida State fans think. I'm not sure I don't think that. So if you can go in there and be in a game in the fourth quarter, and again, it's not 1973 Notre Dame. This isn't Ara Parseghian calling shots here. Rudy's not walking on making those guys better each week at the scout team. This is 2020 Notre Dame. They are a good program. They are not an incredible program. As Gene said, they were up by Duke by 4 points in the fourth quarter. They aren't unbeatable. They aren't invincible. They might be unbeatable for you, but that doesn't mean you can't be in a game. And that's just what I see. I don't think the talent gap isn't to a point where you have to go capitulate as soon as they win the toss. Like, go fight. Go make some plays. Actually, go make some plays. Don't do dumb stuff. Don't give them wide open throws. Make them earn what they get and make them stress on defense. Just make them stress in general. Make them have a stressful game, and then you can go from there. If the score's 35-10, but it was 21-10 in the fourth quarter, you're good with that, I think. You're not great with it, but at least you made them have to go win the game. And they weren't resting their starters midway through the third quarter, which has typically been the case anytime Florida State plays a good team lately.
Yeah, I'm kind of looking at it twofold here. I actually think they have a few things working on offense that could be interesting. Let's see if their game on offense and they continue to move the football even when they're off of script. So far against a real team, they haven't moved the ball off of script. Now, the game against Jacksonville State was a different animal, obviously, because they didn't move the ball on script, and then they moved it when Jordan Travis came in. But do you have something in place now where you can have some success, reasonably so, on into the second half to give yourself a fighting chance to keep it close? Defensively, I think that's the area of greatest concern. I think Notre Dame's offensive line is going to manhandle Florida State's defensive line, and if that's the case, they can name their score. I do want to see fight. I do want to see them compete there. I can lose this game. I can watch my squad lose this game by 28 points and still feel good if I see some of these other things that we're talking about, which is an offense coming into its own and a defense that just isn't good enough up front right now. But again, right now, so far, most of the frustration, most of the consternation for Florida State fans, I think, sits with this defense. I have a sense that you guys have talked about it today, that this offense is going to start getting better each week. We've got to see some signs that the defense can compete. Maybe that's what I'm hanging on to here. Is there any hope that they can compete at all when they're on that side of the football? Time now to make some weekly picks, and we'll start with Tennessee and Georgia. Georgia just needed to make a change of quarterback. They did. They cruised. They looked good. I suspected they would. I'll pick Georgia here, and I'll give the 13.
I think so too. I like that kid at quarterback. I don't know how he's not elite by any stretch, but he's got some self-belief, and that defense looks ferocious.
That defense is elite.
I'll go against the grain here a little bit just to be different. I would be happier if that line was 14, but Tennessee's been pretty competitive as of late, so I think they might give Georgia's going to win the game, but 13's a lot of points. So give me the Vols.
Yeah, it is a lot of points. And Tennessee has very quietly won 8 straight football games. Their fan base is thinking they're on their way to a national title. Oklahoma and Texas. This used to be an important game. Now neither team is any good at all. They give up a gazillion yards and points. The Big 12 is a laughingstock of football. I root for Oklahoma. Everybody listening to this knows that if they followed me at all, because I have family that went there, and by virtue of that, I root for them. But I think these two teams stink. I'll take Oklahoma -2 because I want them to win.
I think I'm there with you. I think not because I want them to win. I do not care at all. It would be if it didn't get played, it wouldn't affect my life one iota. But I think I just trust a little bit more Oklahoma, that culture, to win a game like this, besides Texas. I mean, Texas, they're really struggling.
68-61, Gene. What do you got here?
This is the first time I think I have no interest in watching this game. I mean, every year it's that noon kickoff, the Red River rivalry or Red River shootout. I guess they don't call it that anymore for PC reasons. But I'm not even going to turn on the TV and watch it. It's awful. But I guess Oklahoma. I suppose they seem to, like you said, the culture, the coaching staff a little bit more solid. So in a 2-point line, I'll go with Oklahoma.
Boomer, baby. Florida -6.5 against Texas A&M. The beleaguered Jimbo Fishers have to get a win at some point. That guy's going to retire on the spot when they get beat on Saturday. He looks like, I don't want to say. I mean, my man's struggling. A&M is not getting their $75 million worth. That's for sure. Very tired, very, very predictable performances from Texas A&M in games that matter. Here they are getting 6.5. Does Jimbo do it to Florida again? He's had great success against Florida. We all remember that with fondness. Does he do it here? Does he cover? Does he win the game? Gene, you start here. No, he does not win the game, and he does not cover the spread. I hate to pick the Gators again. They're just a much better team right now. It seems like it's funny now to see all the articles coming out starting to blast Jimbo a little bit. Like, why do we pay $75 million? How is this any different than Kevin Sumlin? It's the same thing. If anything, how could Mon looks like he's worse than he was when Jimbo arrived? I don't know how that happens. We saw it happen with Jameis Winston, or I'm sorry, not with Blackman, but there's a reason for that. I don't know why the same coach is a quarterback guru. Now, Florida's going to go. I think Florida wins by 2 touchdowns in this thing, and the pressure mounts for Jimbo Fisher.
I disagree. I don't know if it's wishful thinking, but I think Jimbo might have something for Florida. Number one, I don't think Florida's that good. I think they showed some warts in the second half of that game, and their defense is not good at all.
No, that's true.
It's better than Florida State's, but that ain't saying much. It's not very good at all. And that offense, you think Jimbo will figure out a way to put up 30. And I think if you put up 30, you might have a chance. We'll see. I mean, apparently Florida is the greatest show on turf, and he's Kurt Warner just flinging it around to Torrey Holt and those guys. But I just have a feeling that A&M will come in that game. I'm not going to hold getting blown out by Alabama too much against them, because everybody would almost get blown out by that team. And I think they're going to fight. I don't know if they're going to win, but it's going to be close. I would definitely take A&M plus 6.5.
They were also in a 2-point game against Vanderbilt, Corey, into the second half. So
you know what? Teams get better, Jeff. Teams get better. That 2013 team was in a fourth-quarter game against Boston College.
Yeah.
Turned out all right.
All right. Kellen Mond has gotten worse. He can call EJ for solace. He knows what it's like to get beaten up day in and day out and start the spiral. It's a toughie. I do think, though, I'll agree with Corey. I think this is the last gasp here. I think they'll have a little something. And I don't think Florida's a dominant team. I like their offense a lot. I love their tight end. But I would say that I think their Florida defense is weak. Maybe Kellen Mond has himself a decent game here, and they're in it late. I'll pick Texas A&M to hang in there. Miami at Clemson. This is a comeuppance. This is a reminder to Miami that they're miles away. Clemson's given 14.5. It's a big number. I'll take Clemson to win by 3 touchdowns.
I think I'm with you on that one. I think it'll be a closer game than maybe I would have thought, obviously, a month ago. Sure. But I think Clemson is just too good for him overall. And De'Aaron King, Venables will have something for De'Aaron King where he's not going to score 50 points. And Clemson might Clemson will definitely be in the high 30s or 40s, I think. So, and I think Clemson enjoys these types of games when they're actually challenged and they know they're going to be challenged. I think they're going to have a really good week of practice. So, yeah, I'll say Clemson covers. I see them winning by 21 to 24 points.
Gene?
I am going to enjoy suddenly the quiet in South Beach after Saturday. After we seem to have every year Miami's back, and then they get slapped back into reality. So that's going to happen Saturday. They're definitely going to cover that spread pretty easily. So Clemson all the way in this one.
All right, there it is. So I would remind you one more time, pregame show, myself, Tom Lang. It is Florida State Notre Dame pregame show on Warchant TV. You'll be able to see it. It's posted there on the screen somewhere for start time right there. I look forward to doing that as we break down Florida State Notre Dame before the game. And then after the game, you can watch Gene Williams and Tom Lang break down what happened during the game. Call-in show. Feel free. Both shows, you can ask questions. We'll try to answer them. Warchant TV on YouTube. For Gene Williams and Corey Clark, I'm Jeff Cameron. Thanks to Aslan. Thanks to all of you for watching. Go Noles, and we'll talk to you next time.